We join together now in singing the opening hymn, What Wondrous Love, number 18 in your gray hymnal. I'm going to share a story with you, and Michelle is going to act out the story or make the story incarnate. So think of the world at the very, very, very beginning when nobody had any idea what they were supposed to do. In the beginning, when the world was just getting started, Spider was sitting on a big basket. And that basket was full of wisdom. Spider was beside herself with excitement, because all of this wisdom she The spider would be the wisest person in the whole world, the smartest person. Think of all the advantages a spider has if they got all the wisdom in the world. What an advantage over all the other creatures, since she would be wise and they would be foolish. But what if someone found out and tried to steal some of her wisdom? I know, the spider said, I'll save it on the tallest tree, taller than the balcony, the organ loft, taller than that, a high tree. And then no one else will be able to look inside the basket and see what I have. It was rough going. Try to imagine walking with 6 legs and a basket and 2 of them. So the spider has 6? 8, all right. All 8, you got 4 involved in trying to climb a tree and 4 to hold the basket. So the spider quickly become exhausted. It's right here, 6 legs and carry the basket with 2 of the, well, I should have read ahead. Squirrel saw the spider struggling. Squirrel's in the tree, sees the spider struggling up the tree, trying to carry the basket and walk. And Squirrel said, why don't you fasten a strap around the basket and put it on your forehead so you can drag the weight behind you? Put it around there. Then it will be easier for you to get up the tree. Now the spider reacts. Instead of saying, gee, thanks, squirrel, for your little information, spider goes, how did you think of that? I don't know, said squirrel, but that's the way I would do it. The way I would do it was to put the basket on my forehead and strap it on.
I'm mad at the squirrel.
And you're wondering how come you don't have all the wisdom in the world.
Well, yes.
I'm supposed to possess all the wisdom in the world, the spider says. Spider thought about that he had been tricked and fooled, and he said, have a great tantrum. And she heaved up and down in the basket, and the wisdom scattered all to the ground. After the service, you can pick up the wisdom.
It's contained.
And the wisdom spilled out everywhere, into the air, into the ground, into the water. All the animals flocked around and each carried off a little bit of wisdom. The bear, the eagle, the cougar, and all the animals each captured a bit of wisdom and good sense that would help them and their children stay alive. Now you're getting some wisdom. The trees stood still and drank deeply of the wisdom as it fed their ancient roots. In this way, the wisdom became part of the world in rocks and wind and rivers and animals, and even in the 2-legged ones who came later. They had a little bit of wisdom. Each and every living thing had some wisdom to share if anyone pays attention. The spider thus learned that wisdom is meant to be shared with and between everyone else. Each one of us holds a precious piece of wisdom, or even perspective that you could share. What the world looks like through your eyes, how your upbringing brought you to see things, and it means to stand in the particular moccasins. When we share these separate pieces, we are all participating in creating new wisdom. We're creatures of the earth, and we've been doing that ever since Spider dropped that basket full of wisdom. Today, more than ever, we need to collect all the pieces. Oh, they're not going to be, collect them later. We need to collect all the pieces of wisdom and develop patience to learn from each other and act and develop new ways. So endeth the lesson for the morning.
And if you didn't get a piece of your colorful wisdom, please grab one on the way out, just to remember.
This morning we heard a story told by village storytellers, then retold by mothers as their children went to bed, a story that came across the sea with African slaves and was adopted by indigenous people in this hemisphere as well. People told stories. People in community heard the story and remembered the moral. Wisdom was to be shared. Other stories shared other wisdom. There are stories that teach us that teamwork works. I've told that story. I'll tell it again if you want. Teams are better than trying to do it alone. And there are stories that when we get into a fight or argument, we should let the anger go, because anger can drive friends apart. We live in a so-called modern age. We have all kinds of fancy technology. We might dismiss storytelling, village storytelling, as old-fashioned. Is it an outlandish notion that we can learn anything from what we sometimes call children's stories? Yet for tens of thousands a year, people lived in communities that not only told stories, but shared wisdom with each other and with their children, but communities that sought to live into the lessons of the stories. People would be reminded of the story when they acted up or acted wise. For many Unitarian Universalists today, they find that kind of community in congregations, sharing wisdom, living into the wisdom, learning from each other. Sometimes we come together on Sunday morning, we hear exciting ideas, topics are really exciting, the presentation is wonderful, and it's the conversation afterwards that has the deepest impact. We tell our own sermons when we share what we think about that sermon. Members sharing, giving examples from their own lives. The speaker has stimulated imagination and memories, and the wisdom shared is profound and deep. More and more we hear Unitarian Universalists say, we want to deepen the spiritual life of our congregation. A good place to start is to recognize the spirituality we have. Our congregations are communities in which wisdom is shared. And our congregations are community in which members grow, over time, grow in wisdom. When Unitarian Universalists testify, when they brag about their congregations, often what they confess to loving the most is that wonderful, caring community their congregation is, and how many deep and meaningful experiences of sharing they have experienced. What do you think, Michelle?
In community, wisdom is shared. In community and in the sharing, wisdom is nurtured and deepened. It has been that way for tens of thousands of years. If we look at that collection of ancient writings we call the Bible, we see that a large portion of the writings are rightfully called wisdom literature. There are legends and myths that were sacred to the Hebrew people. There are collections of poems and joy and praise that are called the Psalms. There are imaginative stories revealing deep insights, such as Job, that we spoke about not too long ago, Ruth, Jonah and the Whale, one of my personal favorites, and the book of Esther. Stories of suffering and doubt, stories of great moral courage, and stories of the place of deep human fear. These are the wisdom stories available when we look at the Bible. We also experience the shared wisdom of philosophy and literature, as in the writings of thinkers like Socrates, Aristotle, Shakespeare, and the great mystic and poet Rumi. And when we look wider, we see that there are other wisdom traditions: Buddhism, Hinduism, Taoism, Sufism, Islam, pagan traditions, and the wisdom of indigenous people as well. We hear in these wisdom stories experiences that challenge our dominant worldviews and Western ways of being. Wisdom traditions share insights, yes, but they also share practices of personal transformation, of expanding our consciousness in the ways we understand and relate to our world. This is the essence of what we call practical theology. Through such practices, we may rediscover universal truths about our own identity, the nature of genuine happiness, right relationship, and our relationship to our beautiful earth. We may, if we live into the wisdom, practice it, and make it our own. That is why we call it the practice of wisdom as a spirituality. Character, humility, a sense of perspective, the openness to the wonder of our existence can't be taught. That can't be taught. They need to be evoked. They need to be nurtured. We need to be intentional in our relationship to these practices. We are reminded of the ancient meaning of education, to draw out. That's the root meaning of the metaphor, to draw out, to bring out what is already there. The spirituality called wisdom is the practice of cultivating human being. But in our time, we have substituted wisdom for knowledge and technique. We live in a culture that is about the achievement of wealth and power, at times through violence, rather than loving kindness and depth of being. T.S. Eliot, who was a Unitarian, said, "Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information?" I'll read that again. T.S. Eliot said, "Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information?" Another way to make this point is that our culture is more about controlling and mastering the world, overloading and hoarding information and resources, rather than loving and deeply experiencing the world in its wisdom. As a pastoral counselor and spiritual director, I encounter so many people who are anxious and feel rudderless in the turmoil of our time. And I myself am definitely not immune from these feelings, as I can imagine some of you are not as well. One significant root of panic attacks is the false belief that one needs to master and control one's world and surroundings, including the people in one's life. It is an inability to simply be with the chaos, be with the uncertainty, be with the fear, or to lean into the feelings of the body. As a contemporary Buddhist writer I admire, Pema Chödrön, would say, "Our personal wisdom is constrained in flexibility and creative response when we seek to master and control. And when we seek to master and control, when we seek to hoard, we also cannot receive wisdom from others, and this limits our ability to be creative." On to you, Clyde.
When asked about creativity, Steve Jobs suggested that creativity is just about connecting things. And then he observed that when we ask people how they came up with that creative idea, they feel a little guilty because it seemed so obvious to them. It's just about connecting experiences they had, insights they had. By brainstorming, it was being put all together, all these little threads. Jobs hints that it doesn't state another part of the creative process. The idea that creative ideas, patentable ideas, are created by teams of people working on a problem, brainstorming ideas, seeing possibility over and over and over and over again, seeing what could happen. The genius came in connecting the ideas and experiences. stimulated by brainstorming, sharing ideas, coming up with new solutions to new problems. Our culture has socialized us to think of genius as individual, as a characteristic of a rare and uniquely talented person. But looking at the word genius as it was originally used, we find the ancients thought of genius as a spiritual force of the cosmos, that it was made manifest in households, cities, nations. The Romans would talk of the genius of the forum, or the genius of Rome. The genius of the founding fathers was used a couple of hundred years ago. We look back at the writings of George Washington and Ralph Waldo Emerson. Again, we find this collective and spiritual use of the term genius. The genius of Concord. The genius of our time. The spiritual force. When our ancestors used when our ancestors used the word genius in terms of an individual, there was an implication that the person participated in something greater than themselves. The word genius stems from the same root of other words we use today. Listen to the roots. Generate, generative, genesis, generation, and generous come to mind. So we think about the cousins of genius. We can appreciate that genius is related to the notions of origins and giving, generosity. I appreciate Steve Jobs' insight that creativity is connecting experiences we already have had, relationships we've already noticed. Thus I say without a moment's hesitation that congregations at their best are hosts of genius. They are places where we come together to share our wisdom and generate new wisdom. So many people come to our congregation seeking answers to life elusive questions and discover not a pat answer, not some wisdom off the shelf, but rather an engaged conversation with fellow pilgrims. New insights, new understandings are generated. And now Michelle picks it up and finishes the thought.
Yes, Clyde. Our congregations are incubators of wisdom in their members and catalysts for sharing wisdom with the wider community. First, if they are successful in nurturing and caring for each member, treasuring their worth and dignity and unique gifts. And then, if each member is humble enough to realize, unlike Spider, that wisdom is only found in the giving and receiving of community. These are hard lessons when ego tries to fool us into believing, and trust me, I'm one of them, only I can do the task. Only I know best. Only I will get the job done with any competence. That resonate with any people? It sure does with me. So perhaps some of you know these hard lessons from personal experience. They're ones that I am still learning, and it's never without irony that I play the role of Spider in this dialogue with Clyde. Yet in the most challenging times of suffering, congregations can share their wisdom together and bring forth their wisdom prophetically into the world for our times. As a practical theologian, I studied the wisdom practices in congregations, as well as with the Peace Institute. Sadly, we witness more and more, even the sanctuaries of religious institutions are not immune from the violence of our times. The Knoxville, Tennessee Valley Unitarian Church, Unitarian Universalist Church, was one that I studied, and they discovered this truth when, in 2008, a lone gunman opened fire in their church sanctuary during a children's performance of the musical Annie, killing 2 adults and traumatizing many. The practices of renewal and healing engaged in the aftermath often were drawn not from experts coming in, trust me. It was drawn from the deep wisdom of the congregation as a group, with members tending to members more often than not, and drawing upon each of their unique gifts and skills for healing. This is one of the ways in which I deepened into the wisdom of people surviving in the aftermath. It is often not the experts. The survivors themselves are the experts. And one of the most powerful moments was the wisdom exhibited by the children of that church when they spontaneously asked to be able and were granted permission to sing "The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow" during their large interfaith service the very next day. How often do we respect and listen to the genius and wisdom that belong to our children, or even our young people and young adults? Yet another practice to emerge from Knoxville, Tennessee drew on the collective genius and wisdom of our faith tradition on a national level. A powerful little movement that was initially called Standing on the Side of Love and now is known as the Side with Love campaign originated in its public form out of the resilience of the Knoxville congregation. At its foundational roots, when we, as the Unitarian Universalist Association, became known as the Love People in our public witness, showing up in our yellow t-shirts en masse, we also became known as those willing to act against all forms of violence. We hold up the worth and dignity of all persons when we act on behalf of the LGBTQ and immigrant communities, when we act on behalf of Black Lives Matter and against mass incarceration, and on behalf of peace against the violence of guns on our streets or war abroad. The collective genius and wisdom on which we are drawing now as a country is that our personal liberation is bound up with the liberation of all, here and abroad. We truly are an interdependent web. We must move forward with deepened spiritual practices as well as with a shared analysis of the institutional forms of oppression that are holding all of us down. The signs of these times are calling us to know this profound truth, to develop our capacity for new wisdom. And new wisdom is genius, as Clyde referenced, and a spirituality that manifests by sharing of many practices, not by teaching the one true way or the one Bible or the one ritual or the one perfect practice or the one way to love. Wisdom is not about mastery and control. It draws on chaotic and eclectic insights from the diversity of our whole shared world, acknowledging that there are multiple avenues for exploring all facets of human being and the natural world, contemplative, philosophical, and scientific. And no one method, even the scientific method, should suppress the insights of the others. Spirituality ultimately is the genius of sharing wisdom in and across communities, across ages, races, classes, genders, sexual orientations, abilities, religions, across all the false selves and false boundaries, into the cultivation and practice of human being and human authenticity. Out of this spirituality, new wisdom for our challenging times, so desperately in need of the genius of such shared wisdom, may spring. May it always be so. Amen, amen, and blessed be.
and grows